Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the air moving gently in and out of your lungs. Each breath you take connects you to the most beautiful partnership on Earth. A partnership so quiet, so elegant, that most people never notice it happening. Right now, somewhere near you, a leaf is catching sunlight. The morning sun streams through your window, touches the tree outside, and begins something miraculous. The leaf doesn't make a sound. It doesn't announce what it's doing. But in that silent moment, it starts converting starlight into life itself. You see, every ray of sunlight that touches that leaf began its journey 93 million miles away. Deep in the heart of our sun, hydrogen atoms dance together in a cosmic fire. They fuse and release energy that travels across the cold darkness of space. For 8 minutes and 20 seconds, this energy races toward Earth at the speed of light. And then it meets a leaf. The leaf is waiting. It has been waiting since it first unfurled from a tiny bud weeks or months ago. Its surface is covered with millions of microscopic green factories, each one smaller than the width of a human hair. These factories are called chloroplasts, and they are about to perform the most important magic trick in the universe. When sunlight hits the leaf, something extraordinary happens. The green color you see isn't just decoration. That green comes from a molecule called chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is like a tiny solar panel that nature invented long before humans ever dreamed of capturing sunlight for energy. The chlorophyll molecule reaches out and catches individual particles of light called photons. Imagine trying to catch fireflies with your hands, but these fireflies are moving at the speed of light and are smaller than anything you could ever see. Yet the chlorophyll catches them perfectly, every single time. What happens next is like watching the most beautiful dance. The captured light energy bumps electrons in the chlorophyll molecule to higher energy levels. These excited electrons don't want to stay excited for long. They begin to flow through a series of other molecules, like water flowing down a gentle stream. As the electrons flow, they release their energy bit by bit. The leaf captures this flowing energy and uses it to power something even more amazing. It takes carbon dioxide from the air around you, the same gas you breathe out, and combines it with water that the roots have pulled up from deep in the soil. With the energy from sunlight, the leaf transforms these simple ingredients into sugar. Pure, sweet glucose that becomes food for itself and ultimately food for every living thing on Earth. But that's not all. As a gift to you and every breathing creature, the leaf releases oxygen into the air. The oxygen you're breathing right now was created this way. Every molecule of oxygen in your lungs was once locked inside a water molecule in the soil. A leaf split that water apart using sunlight, kept what it needed, and gave you the oxygen as a present. This is photosynthesis. The word means putting together with light. But it's so much more than its name suggests. It's the reason you can breathe. It's the reason you can eat. It's the reason life exists on Earth at all. Think about this for a moment. The leaf outside your window is quietly performing the same process that every green plant has been doing for over 3 billion years. Before there were animals, before there were flowers, before there were trees as we know them, tiny green organisms in ancient oceans were learning how to eat sunlight. They were so successful at this that they changed the entire atmosphere of our planet. The oxygen that fills your lungs today exists because countless generations of plants have been generous enough to share their waste product with the world. The leaf doesn't think about what it's doing. It doesn't plan or worry or wonder if it's doing enough. It simply does what it was designed to do, with an efficiency that still amazes the smartest scientists on Earth. A single leaf can perform millions of these light-capturing reactions every second, never missing a beat, never taking a break during daylight hours. And it does all of this silently. There's no machine humans have ever built that can match what a leaf does. Our best solar panels can convert about 20% of sunlight into usable energy. But a leaf, working with the same sunlight, can achieve nearly perfect efficiency in capturing and using that energy for the chemistry of life. The leaf knows exactly when to open its pores to let carbon dioxide in and when to close them to keep water from escaping. It knows how to aim its surface toward the sun as the day progresses. It knows how to protect itself from too much light and how to make the most of dim light on cloudy days. As you rest here, breathing steadily, your body is intimately connected to this green world around you. The carbon atoms in your body were once carbon dioxide floating in the air. A plant breathed them in, transformed them with sunlight, and built them into sugars and other molecules. When you ate that plant, or ate an animal that ate that plant, those carbon atoms became part of you. You are literally made of sunlight and air, transformed by the gentle alchemy of leaves. The oxygen flowing through your bloodstream right now carries the signature of its birth in chloroplasts. As it travels to every cell in your body, it brings with it the gift of countless plants that chose to share their abundance with the world. This is the silent symphony happening all around you. Leaves catching light, splitting water, combining carbon, releasing oxygen. No conductor guides this orchestra, yet it plays in perfect harmony. The rhythm is as steady as your heartbeat, as reliable as the sunrise. Tomorrow, when you wake up and see sunlight streaming through leaves, you'll know what's really happening. You'll understand that you're witnessing the most fundamental process of life on Earth. The gentle transformation of starlight into the breath in your lungs and the food on your table. But tonight, as you drift toward sleep, let yourself feel grateful for this quiet miracle. Feel connected to every leaf that ever caught sunlight and chose to share its gift with the world. And as your breathing slows and deepens, know that each breath connects you to something much larger than yourself. Something ancient and generous and utterly essential. The leaf outside your window will continue its work through the night, preparing for tomorrow's sunlight. And when morning comes, it will begin again this ancient dance of light and life, this silent symphony that makes everything possible. But now, as darkness settles, let your mind wander deeper into this green world. For inside every leaf lies a microscopic forest, more complex and beautiful than any cathedral ever built. Imagine you could shrink yourself down to the size of a speck of dust. You drift gently through the air and land on the surface of a leaf. What looks smooth and simple from your normal size now reveals itself as an entire world of intricate beauty. The leaf surface stretches out before you like a vast green landscape. Rolling hills and gentle valleys create a topography more complex than any mountain range. The surface isn't solid at all. It's alive, breathing, and covered with thousands of tiny doorways. These doorways are called stomata. The word means little mouths in Greek, and that's exactly what they look like. Each stoma is surrounded by two guard cells that open and close like lips. They control what goes in and what comes out of the leaf, breathing carbon dioxide in and oxygen out. As you watch, the guard cells sense the morning light and slowly open their stomata. Fresh air flows in, carrying carbon dioxide molecules that tumble and dance in the gentle current. This is the raw material the leaf needs for its daily work of photosynthesis. But the real magic happens deeper inside the leaf. You slip through one of these tiny doorways and find yourself in a world unlike anything you've ever seen. You're floating in a space filled with soft, green light. The walls around you are transparent, letting sunlight filter through in the most beautiful way. This is the inside of a leaf cell, and it's like being inside a living cathedral made of light and life. Scattered throughout this space are hundreds of small green structures that look like tiny pillows or beans. These are the chloroplasts, the microscopic factories where photosynthesis actually happens. Each one is smaller than the tiniest grain of sand, yet each one is busier than the most active factory you could imagine. You drift closer to one of these chloroplasts and discover that it has its own intricate architecture. The outer wall is smooth, but inside, it's filled with stacks of flat, disc-like structures. These stacks look like tiny pancakes piled on top of each other. Scientists call them thylakoids, but you can think of them as the solar panels of the chloroplast. Each thylakoid membrane is packed with millions of chlorophyll molecules. These molecules are arranged in precise patterns, like solar collectors designed by nature's most skilled engineer. They're positioned at exactly the right angles to catch the maximum amount of light as it streams through the leaf. When a photon of light hits one of these chlorophyll molecules, something extraordinary happens. The energy from that single particle of light sets off a chain reaction that spreads through the entire system. It's like dropping a pebble in a perfectly still pond and watching the ripples spread outward. The chlorophyll molecule absorbs the light energy and uses it to boost an electron to a higher energy level. This excited electron doesn't want to stay excited for long. It jumps to a neighboring molecule, then to another, and another. As it moves, it releases its energy in carefully controlled amounts. This energy flow is captured and used to power tiny molecular machines embedded in the thylakoid membranes. These machines are so small that millions of them could fit on the head of a pin. Yet each one works with precision that would make the finest Swiss watchmaker jealous. One of these molecular machines uses the flowing energy to pump hydrogen ions across the membrane, creating a difference in concentration. It's like building up water behind a dam. When the concentration difference becomes strong enough, another molecular machine opens up and lets the hydrogen ions flow back through. As they flow, they spin a tiny molecular turbine that manufactures molecules of ATP. This ATP is like the universal currency of life. Every living cell, including the ones in your own body, uses ATP to power all its activities. Meanwhile, other molecular machines in the chloroplast are using this energy to perform an even more amazing trick. They take carbon dioxide molecules from the air and water molecules from the soil and combine them into sugar. This process happens through a series of chemical reactions so elegant and efficient that chemists are still trying to fully understand how it works. The sugar molecules that form are like captured sunlight. They contain the energy from the photons that started this whole process. When the plant needs energy later, it can break down these sugar molecules and release the stored sunlight to power its growth and repair. But the plant is generous. It makes far more sugar than it needs for itself. The excess sugar travels through tiny tubes in the leaf to other parts of the plant. Some becomes the wood in the trunk, some becomes the sweetness in fruit, and some get stored in roots and seeds. All around you in this microscopic world, thousands of chloroplasts are performing this same dance of light and chemistry. Each one is working independently, yet they're all perfectly coordinated. There's no central control system, no manager telling them what to do. They simply do what they evolved to do, with a reliability that has kept life on Earth going for billions of years. As you float through this cellular cathedral, you notice other structures too. Long, tube-like organelles called mitochondria glide through the cell. These are the power plants that burn sugar to release energy for the cell's other activities. It's a beautiful partnership. Chloroplasts make sugar from sunlight, and mitochondria burn that sugar to power life. You realize that your own body contains mitochondria that are very similar to these. In fact, scientists believe that mitochondria were once independent bacteria that learned to live inside other cells billions of years ago. The same is true for chloroplasts. They were once free-living organisms that mastered the art of photosynthesis and then became permanent residents of plant cells. This means that inside every leaf, two ancient partnerships are still playing out. Chloroplasts provide sugar, mitochondria provide energy, and the plant cell provides a safe home for both. It's cooperation at the most fundamental level of life. The cell you're floating in is just one of millions in this single leaf. Each cell contains hundreds of chloroplasts, and each chloroplast contains thousands of chlorophyll molecules. When you multiply all these numbers together, you begin to understand the incredible scale of photosynthesis happening in just one leaf. Every second, trillions of light reactions are occurring around you. Electrons are flowing, energy is being captured, and carbon dioxide is being transformed into the building blocks of life. The gentle green light filtering through the cell walls is actually the symphony of all these molecular machines working in perfect harmony. As you prepare to continue your journey deeper into the leaf's architecture, you feel a sense of wonder at the complexity hidden in something as simple as a leaf. The quiet efficiency, the elegant design, the generous abundance, it all speaks to a wisdom that took billions of years to perfect. But there's more to discover in this green cathedral. The sugar being made here must travel somewhere, and the water that makes it all possible must come from somewhere else entirely. Far below where you sit, in the cool darkness of soil, something magical is happening. While you rest above ground, feeling the gentle breeze on your face, an intricate network of roots spreads through the earth like an underground constellation. These roots are much more extensive than you might imagine. If you could see through the soil, you discover that the root system of a single tree often mirrors the canopy above. For every branch reaching toward the sky, there's often a corresponding root reaching deeper into the earth. The smallest of these roots are finer than the threads in your clothing. They probe through tiny spaces between soil particles, searching constantly for water. At their very tips are root hairs so delicate they're invisible to your naked eye. Yet these microscopic structures perform one of the most important jobs in the living world. Each root hair reaches out like a tiny hand, feeling for moisture in the soil. When it finds water, something beautiful begins. The water molecules don't just sit there waiting to be collected. They're drawn into the root through a process so gentle it's like the plant is breathing through its roots. The root hair's outer membrane is specially designed to let water pass through while keeping other substances out. It's like having millions of microscopic filters, each one perfectly selective. Water molecules slip through these filters and enter the root's living tissues. Once inside the root, the water begins an incredible journey upward. It enters tiny tubes called xylem vessels that run like highways from the roots all the way to the highest leaves. These vessels are so narrow that if you could shrink down to see them, they'd look like drinking straws made for fairies. But how does water travel upward through these vessels? There's no pump pushing it up from below, no mechanical force driving it skyward. Instead, the plant uses one of nature's most elegant solutions, the power of evaporation working in partnership with the molecular attraction of water to itself. High above in the leaves, water is constantly evaporating through those tiny stomatal pores you visited in the last chapter. As each water molecule evaporates and drifts away into the air, it creates a gentle suction that pulls more water up from below. It's like sipping through an incredibly long, thin straw. This might seem impossible. How can evaporation from a leaf pull water up from roots that might be hundreds of feet below? The answer lies in one of water's most remarkable properties: its molecules love to stick together. Water molecules are like tiny magnets, with each one attracted to its neighbors. When one molecule is pulled upward, it doesn't want to let go of the molecule below it. That molecule then pulls on the one below it, and so on, creating an unbroken chain of water reaching from the roots to the leaves. This chain is incredibly strong. The water column in a tree can support its own weight even when it stretches hundreds of feet from ground to treetop. It's a feat of engineering that would challenge our best architects and engineers. As water travels upward through the xylem vessels, it carries with it dissolved minerals from the soil. These minerals are like vitamins for the plant. Calcium for strong cell walls, potassium for healthy growth, magnesium that will become part of chlorophyll molecules, and dozens of other essential nutrients. The journey upward is surprisingly fast. In a tall tree, water can travel from root to leaf in just a few hours. Along the way, some water branches off to supply the needs of the stem and trunk. Some goes into making new cells as the plant grows. But most continues its upward journey to the leaves. When the water finally reaches a leaf, it enters a network of tiny veins that spread throughout the leaf like rivers branching across a landscape. These veins deliver water to every cell, ensuring that the photosynthesis happening in the chloroplasts has all the raw materials it needs. In the leaf cells, water plays multiple roles. It provides the hydrogen atoms that will become part of sugar molecules. It keeps the cells plump and firm, maintaining the leaf shape. And it carries away waste products from the cell's metabolism. But perhaps most importantly, water participates directly in the light reactions of photosynthesis. When chlorophyll absorbs sunlight, one of the first things that happens is that water molecules are split apart. The hydrogen becomes part of the energy storage system, while the oxygen is released into the air for you to breathe. Eventually, much of the water that traveled all the way from the roots reaches the stomatal pores in the leaf surface. Here, it evaporates into the air around the plant. This process is called transpiration, and it's like the plant's version of breathing out. On a warm day, a single large tree can transpire hundreds of gallons of water. All of this water vapor rises into the air, adding moisture to the atmosphere. It's one of the ways that forests create their own weather patterns, bringing rain and maintaining humidity. You can sometimes see this transpiration happening. On a cool morning, you might notice a gentle mist rising from a forest or even from the grass in your yard. This is water vapor that plants have released into the air, carrying with it the coolness of the soil from deep underground. The evaporation of water from leaves also helps cool the plant, just like sweating cools your body. On a hot day, the leaves of a tree can be several degrees cooler than the surrounding air because of this natural air conditioning system. This entire water transport system works without any moving parts, without any energy input except the sun's heat that drives evaporation. It's powered by the simple physics of evaporation and the remarkable properties of water molecules. The plant has no control over this system in the way you might control the flow of water from a faucet. Instead, the flow is regulated by environmental conditions. On humid days, less water evaporates, so less water is pulled up from the roots. On dry, windy days, transpiration increases, and the plant draws more water from the soil. As you sit here, feeling the cool shade of leaves above you, you're experiencing the end result of this magnificent water transport system. The coolness you feel comes partly from water that began its journey in the darkness of soil, traveled up through the plant's living tissues, and now evaporates gently into the air around you. Every tree is like a living fountain, constantly drawing water from the earth and releasing it into the sky. It's a process that connects the deepest soil to the highest clouds, and you're resting in the middle of this beautiful cycle. But the water's journey is only part of the plant's daily work. The carbon dioxide floating in the air around you is about to become part of an even more intricate dance of chemistry and life. Take a slow, deep breath. Hold it gently for a moment. Now let it out into the air around you. In that simple exhale, you've just released millions of carbon dioxide molecules into the world. These molecules are about to begin one of the most beautiful journeys in nature. Each carbon dioxide molecule you breathe out is incredibly small. If you could see one, it would look like a tiny stick with a carbon atom in the center and an oxygen atom attached to each end. Simple in structure, yet carrying within it the potential for life itself. These molecules drift away from you on invisible air currents. They tumble and dance in the gentle breeze, mixing with carbon dioxide from countless other sources. Some comes from other breathing creatures like yourself. Some rises from the soil where tiny organisms are breaking down fallen leaves. Some even comes from distant places, carried by winds that have traveled across continents. All of this carbon dioxide becomes part of the atmosphere's invisible river, flowing around the Earth in patterns as complex as any ocean current. And plants are waiting for it everywhere. The leaf above you is breathing too, but in the opposite rhythm from your own breathing. While you take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide, the leaf takes in carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. It's a partnership so perfect that it has kept life balanced on Earth for billions of years. When carbon dioxide molecules drift close to a leaf's surface, they encounter those tiny doorways called stomata that you visited earlier. The guard cells that control these openings are constantly sensing the air around them. When they detect the presence of carbon dioxide, they adjust their opening to let just the right amount flow inside. The carbon dioxide molecule enters the leaf and finds itself in a world of organized activity. It drifts through the air spaces between cells, eventually dissolving in the thin film of water that coats the inside surfaces of the leaf. Now it can begin its transformation. Inside the leaf cells, the dissolved carbon dioxide encounters one of nature's most important molecules. This molecule is called RuBisCO, and though its name might sound complicated, its job is beautifully simple. It catches carbon dioxide and begins the process of turning it into sugar. RuBisCO is probably the most abundant protein on Earth. There are more RuBisCO molecules in the world than any other single protein. This makes sense when you realize that every plant depends on RuBisCO to capture carbon from the air and build it into the molecules of life. When a RuBisCO molecule encounters carbon dioxide, something remarkable happens. The RuBisCO grabs the carbon dioxide and combines it with another molecule that's already inside the plant cell. This combination creates a larger, more complex molecule that contains the carbon atom from your exhaled breath. But this is just the beginning of carbon's transformation. The new molecule that forms is unstable. It immediately breaks apart into two smaller molecules, each containing 3 carbon atoms. These 3 carbon molecules are the first stable products of photosynthesis, the first step in turning air into solid matter. This process happens incredibly quickly. A single RuBisCO molecule can capture and process several carbon dioxide molecules every second. And remember, there are millions of RuBisCO molecules in every leaf cell, and millions of leaf cells in every leaf. The 3 carbon molecules that form from this process don't stay as they are for long. They enter a complex cycle of chemical reactions that scientists call the Calvin cycle, named after the researcher who first figured out how it works. But you can think of it as nature's recycling center. In this cycle, the 3 carbon molecules are shuffled and rearranged in a beautiful dance of chemistry. Some of the molecules are combined to form 6 carbon sugars like glucose. These sugars are the goal of the entire photosynthesis process, they are concentrated sunlight energy in chemical form. But the cycle is even more elegant than that. Not all of the 3 carbon molecules become sugar. Some are recycled back into the molecules that RuBisCO needs to capture more carbon dioxide. It's a self-sustaining system that can continue as long as there's sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide available. The energy that powers this entire carbon transformation comes from the light reactions happening in the chloroplasts. Remember those excited electrons flowing through the molecular machinery you learned about earlier? The energy they release is captured in molecules of ATP and NADPH, which act like rechargeable batteries for the cell. These energy-carrying molecules flow into the carbon fixation reactions and provide the power needed to build complex sugar molecules from simple carbon dioxide. It's like having a construction crew with an unlimited supply of energy to build elaborate structures from basic materials. The sugar molecules that form from this process are incredibly versatile. Some are used immediately by the plant for energy, broken down in the mitochondria to power the cell's activities. Some are converted into starch and stored for later use, like money in a savings account. Some sugar molecules are transformed into cellulose, the strong material that makes up plant cell walls. When you touch the bark of a tree or the stem of a flower, you're feeling cellulose that was once carbon dioxide floating in the air. Some becomes the lignin that makes wood hard and durable. Some becomes the oils in seeds or the sweet nectar in flowers. Every part of every plant you see around you was once carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The grass beneath your feet, the leaves above your head, the trunk of the tree you're leaning against, all of it was built from air, transformed by the patient work of photosynthesis. But plants make far more sugar than they need for themselves. This generosity is what makes all other life on Earth possible. When you eat a piece of fruit, you're consuming sugar molecules that were assembled from carbon dioxide by the plant's photosynthetic machinery. When you eat meat, you're getting energy from an animal that ate plants, which built their bodies from atmospheric carbon. The carbon atoms in your own body have been on an incredible journey. They've been part of ancient atmospheres, dissolved in prehistoric oceans, buried in rock formations, and released back into the air. Some may have been part of dinosaurs millions of years ago. Some may have been in the breath of other humans throughout history. Right now, the carbon atoms in your body are temporarily part of you. But someday they'll return to the atmosphere through your breathing, and they'll have the chance to become part of new plants, new trees, new life. It's a cycle that connects all living things across time and space. The carbon dioxide you exhaled at the beginning of this chapter is already on its way to becoming something new. Maybe it will drift into a nearby flower and become part of a petal. Maybe it will travel far away and become part of a forest in another part of the world. Maybe it will be captured by algae in the ocean and become part of the marine food web. This is the miracle of carbon fixation, the transformation of invisible gas into visible life. It's happening constantly all around you, in every green leaf, in every blade of grass, in every microscopic algae cell floating in the nearest pond or ocean. The process is so quiet and gentle that you never notice it happening. There's no sound, no flash of light, no obvious sign that air is being transformed into solid matter. Yet this silent transformation is one of the most important processes on Earth. As you continue to breathe slowly and peacefully, know that you're participating in this ancient cycle. Your breath feeds the plants around you, and their photosynthesis creates the oxygen you breathe in return. It's a partnership that has been continuing for countless millions of years. But there's something even more extraordinary happening at the molecular level, where individual particles of light are being captured and transformed into the energy that makes all of this possible. Imagine shrinking down even smaller than before. Smaller than the cells you visited, smaller than the molecular machines you witnessed. You're entering a realm where the normal rules of the world begin to bend and shimmer like light on water. Here, in the heart of a chlorophyll molecule, you discover a place where physics becomes poetry. This is the quantum world, where particles behave in ways that seem almost magical. Yet this strange realm is where the most important reaction in the living world begins. The chlorophyll molecule around you looks like an intricate piece of jewelry. At its center sits a single magnesium atom, surrounded by a ring of carbon and nitrogen atoms arranged in perfect symmetry. This ring structure is what gives chlorophyll its beautiful green color, and it's also what makes the magic of photosynthesis possible. But the real wonder happens when a photon of light arrives. A photon is the smallest possible packet of light energy, so tiny that it has no mass at all. It's pure energy traveling at the speed of light, and when it encounters the chlorophyll molecule, something extraordinary occurs. The photon doesn't bounce off the chlorophyll like a ball hitting a wall. Instead, it disappears completely, transferring all of its energy to an electron in the chlorophyll molecule. This electron, which was previously sitting quietly in its normal energy level, suddenly finds itself boosted to a much higher energy state. In the quantum world, electrons don't gradually move from one energy level to another like climbing a ramp. They leap instantly from one level to the next, like jumping between floors of a building without using the stairs. This quantum leap happens faster than anything you can imagine, in less than a trillionth of a second. The excited electron doesn't want to stay in its high-energy state for long. It's like a child who has been lifted high into the air and wants to come back down. But instead of simply falling back to where it started, the electron in chlorophyll does something much more useful. It jumps to a neighboring molecule, carrying its extra energy along with it. This molecule then passes the electron to another molecule, and another, creating a chain reaction of energy transfer. It's like passing a glowing torch from hand to hand, except the torch is an electron and the hands are molecules. This electron transport chain is one of nature's most elegant solutions to the problem of capturing and using energy. Each molecule in the chain is positioned at exactly the right distance and angle to receive the electron from its neighbor. The whole system works with a precision that would make the most skilled engineers envious. As the electron moves through this chain, it gradually releases its energy in small, manageable amounts. This energy doesn't just disappear, it's captured and used to power the chemical reactions that will eventually turn carbon dioxide and water into sugar. Meanwhile, something equally remarkable is happening back at the chlorophyll molecule. When it gave up its excited electron, it was left with a positive charge, like a puzzle missing a piece. To restore its balance, it needs to find another electron to replace the one it lost. The chlorophyll finds this replacement electron in the most abundant source available, water. Using the energy from sunlight, the chlorophyll molecule splits a water molecule apart, taking the electrons it needs and releasing oxygen gas as a byproduct. This is where the oxygen you breathe comes from. Every oxygen molecule in your lungs was once part of a water molecule that was split apart by an excited chlorophyll molecule. The oxygen was released into the air as a gift from the plant to the breathing world. The splitting of water is one of the most important chemical reactions on Earth, yet it happens trillions of times every second in every green plant without making a sound. The energy required to break the strong bonds holding water together comes directly from sunlight, captured by the quantum dance of electrons in chlorophyll. But the quantum world holds even more surprises. Scientists have discovered that the energy transfer in photosynthesis doesn't follow the paths you might expect. Instead of traveling along a single route like a train on tracks, the energy seems to explore multiple pathways simultaneously. This quantum phenomenon is called superposition, and it means that the energy from a single photon can take several different routes through the photosynthetic machinery at the same time. Only when the energy reaches its final destination does it choose which path it actually took. This quantum efficiency helps explain why photosynthesis is so remarkably effective at capturing and using light energy. The system can find the most efficient pathway for each photon, ensuring that very little energy is wasted in the process. The chlorophyll molecules don't work alone in this quantum dance. They're organized into structures called photosystems, where hundreds of chlorophyll molecules work together like a perfectly coordinated orchestra. Each photosystem contains two main types of chlorophyll, along with other helper molecules that fine-tune the light harvesting process. When light hits a photosystem, it creates a cascade of energy transfer that flows like water running downhill. The energy moves from molecule to molecule, always traveling toward the reaction center where the actual chemistry of photosynthesis begins. At the reaction center, special chlorophyll molecules called the primary donor await the arrival of this energy. When the energy reaches them, they perform the crucial quantum leap that starts the electron transport chain. This is the moment when light energy begins its transformation into chemical energy. The entire process happens with incredible speed and efficiency. From the moment a photon hits a chlorophyll molecule to the moment an electron begins its journey through the transport chain takes less than a picosecond, that's 1/1,000,000th of a second. Yet despite this incredible speed, the process is also remarkably gentle. The energy is never allowed to build up to dangerous levels that could damage the delicate molecular machinery. Instead, it flows smoothly from one step to the next, like water flowing through a carefully designed channel. This quantum dance of chlorophyll has been perfected over billions of years of evolution. The chlorophyll molecules in the plant outside your window are virtually identical to those that first evolved in ancient cyanobacteria billions of years ago. The system was so effective from the beginning that evolution has barely needed to change it. The green color that you see when you look at leaves is actually the signature of this quantum process. Chlorophyll absorbs red and blue light very efficiently, using these photons to power photosynthesis. Green light is reflected back to your eyes, which is why plants appear green to you. In a way, the green color of plants is the color of unused light, the photons that chlorophyll doesn't need for its work. But even this waste serves a purpose, creating the beautiful green world that surrounds and soothes you. As you rest here, surrounded by green leaves, you're witnessing the results of countless quantum dances happening every second around you. Each leaf is performing trillions of these light-capturing reactions, converting the energy of sunlight into the chemical energy that powers all of life on Earth. The quantum world might seem strange and distant from your everyday experience, but it's actually as close as the nearest leaf. The oxygen you breathe, the food you eat, the wood in the trees around you, all of it exists because of the quantum dance of electrons in chlorophyll molecules. And this dance is just the beginning. The energy captured in these quantum leaps must now be channeled and organized into the remarkable molecular machines that will transform simple molecules into the complex chemistry of life. Look around you at the green world that surrounds you. Every leaf you see is a solar panel more sophisticated than anything humans have ever created. These living solar collectors have been perfecting their craft for over 3 billion years, long before the first human ever looked up at the sun and wondered how to capture its power. The solar panel on a rooftop converts about 20% of sunlight into electricity. This seems impressive until you compare it to what a leaf accomplishes. A leaf doesn't just convert sunlight into electricity, it converts sunlight into life itself, with an efficiency that makes our best technology seem clumsy by comparison. When engineers design solar panels, they face countless challenges. They must choose materials that can absorb light without breaking down under the sun's intense energy. They must create electrical connections that won't corrode over time. They must build systems that can work in changing weather conditions. A leaf solves all of these problems effortlessly. Its solar collecting molecules are constantly being repaired and replaced. Its electrical systems are made of soft, flexible materials that bend without breaking. Its entire structure is designed to adapt to changing conditions throughout the day and across the seasons. But perhaps most remarkably, a leaf doesn't just collect energy, it uses that energy immediately to build more solar collectors. Every time a leaf captures sunlight, some of that energy goes toward growing new leaves, expanding the plant's ability to capture even more sunlight tomorrow. Imagine if the solar panel on a roof could use the electricity it generates to build more solar panels. Imagine if it could repair itself when damaged, adjust its angle throughout the day to follow the sun, and continue working efficiently for decades without maintenance. This is exactly what every leaf does, and it does it all while floating gently in the breeze. The efficiency of photosynthesis goes far beyond simple energy conversion. When a leaf captures sunlight, it simultaneously performs multiple tasks that would require separate machines in human technology. It generates energy, purifies air, regulates temperature, manages water flow, and manufactures complex chemicals all at the same time. A leaf is like a combination power plant, air filter, air conditioner, water pump, and chemical factory all rolled into one incredibly thin, lightweight package. And unlike human-made machines, it operates completely silently, produces no harmful waste, and powers itself entirely from renewable resources. The materials that make up a leaf are also remarkable. The strongest human-made solar panels are built from silicon and metal, materials that must be mined from the earth and processed at high temperatures. A leaf builds itself from carbon dioxide taken from the air, water drawn from the soil, and a few minerals absorbed by the roots. When a leaf reaches the end of its life, it doesn't become toxic waste that must be carefully disposed of. Instead, it falls gently to the ground and decomposes, returning all of its materials to the soil where they can nourish new growth. It's a perfect example of what engineers call a circular economy. Nothing is wasted, everything is recycled. The surface of a leaf is also ingeniously designed. If you could examine it under a powerful microscope, you would see that it's not smooth at all. Instead, it's covered with tiny bumps and ridges that help it capture light from many different angles. This textured surface means the leaf can collect energy even when sunlight is hitting it at a steep angle or when the light is dim and scattered. Human engineers have recently begun copying this design, creating solar panels with textured surfaces that can capture more light than smooth panels. It's one of many examples of biomimicry, learning from nature to improve human technology. The leaf's ability to track the sun is another marvel of natural engineering. Many leaves can slowly turn throughout the day to keep their surfaces perpendicular to the sunlight. This movement is so gradual you can't see it happening, but time-lapse photography reveals the elegant dance as leaves follow the sun's path across the sky. Some plants take sun tracking even further. Sunflowers famously turn their huge flower heads to follow the sun, but their leaves are also constantly adjusting their positions to maximize light capture. The entire plant becomes a living solar array, with every surface oriented for optimal energy collection. The leaf's internal structure is equally impressive. Remember those chloroplasts you visited earlier? They're not randomly scattered throughout the leaf cells. Instead, they're positioned with mathematical precision to ensure that every part of the leaf receives optimal light while avoiding the shadows cast by neighboring chloroplasts. In dim light, chloroplasts can actually move within the cell, clustering together to capture as much light as possible. In bright light, they spread out to avoid damage from too much energy. This ability to physically reorganize their solar collectors is something human technology can only dream of achieving. The leaf also has sophisticated systems for managing the heat generated by intense sunlight. The evaporation of water through transpiration acts like a natural cooling system, keeping the leaf's delicate molecular machinery at the optimal temperature for photosynthesis. This biological air conditioning requires no external power source, it's driven entirely by the same sunlight it's designed to regulate. Even the leaf's color is perfectly optimized. The green color that defines most leaves is the result of chlorophyll absorbing red and blue light while reflecting green light back to your eyes. This isn't an accident. Red and blue light carry exactly the right amount of energy for the quantum processes of photosynthesis. Green light, which chlorophyll doesn't absorb as efficiently, is reflected away. This might seem wasteful, but it's actually another example of the leaf's sophisticated design. Green light can penetrate deeper into the leaf, reaching chloroplasts that are shaded by those closer to the surface. Even the wasted of light serves a purpose. The timing of a leaf's energy production is also perfectly coordinated with the plant's needs. During the day, when sunlight is available, the leaf produces far more sugar than it needs for immediate use. This excess sugar is stored as starch, creating an energy reserve for nighttime when photosynthesis stops but the plant's other activities continue. This natural battery system allows the plant to maintain its metabolism around the clock. The sugar produced during a few hours of bright sunlight can power the plant's growth, repair, and maintenance activities for an entire day and night. As you sit here surrounded by these living solar panels, you're witnessing the most successful energy technology in Earth's history. The oxygen you breathe, the food you eat, the wooden furniture around you, the fossil fuels that power much of our civilization, all of it exists because leaves learned to capture sunlight billions of years ago. The forest around you is generating more clean energy every day than all of humanity's solar panels combined. This energy flows through the ecosystem, powering not just the plants themselves but every animal that depends on them for food and shelter. And all of this happens without any human maintenance, without any replacement parts, without any environmental damage. The trees around you are proof that it's possible to live entirely on solar energy while actually improving the environment rather than harming it. But now, in laboratories around the world, scientists are studying these natural solar panels with new intensity, hoping to unlock the secrets that could transform how humans capture and use the energy of the sun. In quiet laboratories around the world, scientists approach their work with the patience of gardeners and the precision of watchmakers. They spend their days studying something you might walk past without a second thought, the leaves outside your window. But to these researchers, each leaf is a masterpiece of engineering waiting to reveal its secrets. Dr. Sarah Chen places a single leaf under her microscope every morning. She has been doing this for 15 years, and she still feels a sense of wonder each time the leaf's internal structure comes into focus. The intricate networks of veins, the perfectly arranged cells, the thousands of tiny chloroplasts, all of it represents billions of years of evolutionary refinement. Her laboratory is filled with instruments that can see things smaller than light itself. Electron microscopes reveal the molecular architecture of photosynthesis. Spectrometers measure how efficiently leaves absorb different colors of sunlight. Computer models simulate the quantum processes happening inside chlorophyll molecules. But for all their sophisticated equipment, these scientists approach their work with deep humility. They know they're studying systems that are far more complex and elegant than anything humans have ever created. Each discovery leads to 10 new questions. Each answer reveals layers of complexity they hadn't imagined before. In one corner of the lab, Dr. Chen keeps a small potted plant, the simple houseplant that anyone might have at home. When students visit her laboratory, she always points to this plant first. This, she says softly, is more sophisticated than anything else in this room. We're just trying to understand how it works. The scientists studying photosynthesis come from many different fields. Some are biologists who want to understand how plants evolved such efficient energy systems. Some are chemists fascinated by the molecular reactions that turn sunlight into sugar. Some are physicists intrigued by the quantum effects that make photosynthesis possible. Others are engineers who dream of building better solar panels inspired by leaves. They study how chlorophyll molecules are arranged, how light energy is captured and transferred, how plants protect themselves from too much sunlight. Every insight could lead to new technologies that work more like natural systems. The work requires incredible patience. A single experiment might take months to design and weeks to complete. The researchers often work with incredibly small samples, sometimes just a few molecules extracted from a single leaf. They must be gentle and precise, handling nature's delicate machinery with the care of a surgeon. Dr. Martinez, who works in a laboratory across the country, specializes in understanding how leaves track the sun. She has spent years studying the molecular motors that allow leaves to slowly turn throughout the day. These motors are made of proteins so small that millions could fit inside a single cell. Her research has revealed that leaves don't just passively collect whatever sunlight happens to hit them. Instead, they actively hunt for light, using sophisticated sensing systems to detect where the brightest illumination is coming from. They can even predict where the sun will be later in the day and begin turning toward that position before the sun actually gets there. This predictive ability fascinated Dr. Martinez when she first discovered it. How does a plant, with no brain or nervous system, anticipate the future? The answer lies in internal biological clocks that track the rhythm of day and night. These clocks, combined with light sensors throughout the plant, create a navigation system more accurate than many human-made devices. In another laboratory, Dr. Kim studies how plants protect themselves from too much sunlight. On a bright summer day, a leaf can receive more light energy than it can safely use. Too much energy can damage the delicate molecular machinery of photosynthesis, like overloading an electrical circuit. Plants have evolved elegant solutions to this problem. They can change the angle of their leaves to reflect excess light. They can produce protective pigments that absorb harmful energy before it reaches the chlorophyll. Some plants can even shut down parts of their photosynthetic machinery temporarily, like closing the blinds during the brightest part of the day. Dr. Kim's work has shown that these protective systems are incredibly sophisticated. They can respond to changing light conditions in seconds, adjusting the plant's energy capture to match its current needs. This real-time control system operates without any central processor, yet it's more responsive than most human-made systems. The collaboration between these scientists is as beautiful as the natural systems they study. Researchers share their discoveries freely, building on each other's work like a plant growing new leaves. A biologist's discovery about how chloroplasts move within cells might inspire a physicist's new theory about energy transfer. An engineer's insight about light capture might help a chemist understand a molecular reaction. Their work often involves borrowing techniques from each other's fields. Biologists use tools developed for semiconductor research to study photosynthesis. Engineers apply mathematical models originally created for studying quantum physics. Chemists use biological systems to test new materials for solar energy applications. The scientists often work with living plants in their laboratories. They grow algae in carefully controlled conditions, adjusting temperature, light levels, and nutrient concentrations to understand how these factors affect photosynthesis. They measure oxygen production, sugar formation, and energy efficiency under different conditions. Some researchers focus on the evolutionary history of photosynthesis. They study ancient bacterial fossils and compare the photosynthetic machinery in different types of organisms. This work reveals how nature experimented with different approaches to capturing sunlight over billions of years. The fossil record shows that photosynthesis evolved very early in Earth's history. The first photosynthetic organisms were simple bacteria that lived in ancient oceans. Over time, these bacteria developed more sophisticated light harvesting systems, eventually leading to the complex photosynthesis happening in modern plants. Dr. Rivera, a paleobiologist, studies these ancient origins. Her work shows how the basic design of photosynthesis has remained remarkably stable over billions of years. The chlorophyll molecules in a modern leaf are nearly identical to those in bacteria that lived when the Earth was young. This suggests that evolution found an almost perfect solution very early and has been refining it ever since. The scientists also study photosynthesis in extreme environments. Some research teams travel to deserts to understand how plants capture sunlight in intense heat and drought. Others study plants that live in deep shade, learning how they extract energy from dim light that would be useless to most other organisms. These extreme environments often reveal unexpected innovations. Desert plants have evolved ways to perform photosynthesis while keeping their stomata closed during the day to conserve water. Deep shade plants have developed ultra-efficient light harvesting systems that can capture nearly every photon that reaches them. Each discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of understanding how photosynthesis works. The scientists know that they may never fully comprehend all the intricacies of what happens inside a single leaf. But each new insight brings them closer to appreciating the elegant solutions that nature has developed over billions of years. As these researchers continue their patient work, they're beginning to envision technologies that could transform how humans harvest energy from the sun, inspired by the quiet wisdom found in every leaf that rustles in the evening breeze. Close your eyes and imagine a world 20 years from now. You walk down a city street, but something feels different. The buildings around you seem to shimmer with a subtle green glow. As you look closer, you realize that the walls themselves are alive with energy, covered in panels that look remarkably like leaves. These are artificial leaves, and they're quietly transforming sunlight into clean electricity just as the trees lining the sidewalk have done for millions of years. The boundary between nature and technology has become beautifully blurred, creating cities that breathe and grow like living organisms. This dream is closer to reality than you might think. In laboratories around the world, scientists are creating the first generation of artificial leaves, devices that mimic the elegant processes you've been learning about. These synthetic systems aim to capture the efficiency and grace of natural photosynthesis while producing energy that humans can use directly. Dr. Amanda Foster holds up a small, translucent sheet that looks like it could be a pressed leaf from someone's nature collection. But this leaf was grown in her laboratory, built from synthetic materials designed to mimic the molecular architecture of chlorophyll. When sunlight hits its surface, it begins to split water molecules, just like a real leaf. The hardest part, Dr. Foster explains to her students, isn't copying what a leaf does. It's copying how simply and elegantly it does it. Her artificial leaf contains carefully arranged molecules that can absorb sunlight and use that energy to break water apart into hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen can be collected and used as a clean fuel, while the oxygen is released harmlessly into the air. The process sounds simple, but creating it required years of patient work. The researchers had to find materials that could absorb sunlight efficiently without breaking down over time. They had to design molecular structures that could transfer energy as smoothly as natural chlorophyll. They had to solve the problem of collecting the hydrogen and oxygen gases produced by the reaction. Each challenge led to new innovations. Some researchers focused on creating better light-absorbing materials, experimenting with molecules that could capture different colors of sunlight. Others worked on improving the catalysts, the molecular machines that actually split the water molecules. Still others designed new ways to organize these components into working systems. The first artificial leaves were crude compared to their natural counterparts. They could only convert a small percentage of sunlight into useful energy, and they lasted only a few hours before breaking down. But each generation of artificial leaves has become more efficient and more durable. Dr. Patel's laboratory focuses on a different approach. Instead of trying to split water like natural photosynthesis, his artificial leaves convert sunlight directly into electricity, but with a twist inspired by nature. His devices contain synthetic molecules that change their structure when light hits them, creating electrical currents that flow through organic circuits. These bio-inspired solar cells can be printed on flexible materials, creating solar panels that can bend and flex like real leaves. Imagine solar collectors that could be woven into fabric, painted onto walls, or grown into the shapes needed for any application. The materials used in these artificial leaves are often surprising. Some contain molecules originally found in bacteria that live in extreme environments. Others use synthetic versions of the pigments that give flowers their bright colors. One research team has even created artificial leaves using modified proteins from algae that live in Antarctica. But perhaps the most exciting development is the creation of self-repairing artificial leaves. Just as real leaves can replace damaged molecules and grow new parts when needed, these advanced synthetic systems can detect when their components are wearing out and automatically repair themselves. Dr. Kim's self-healing artificial leaves contain tiny capsules filled with replacement molecules. When part of the leaf is damaged by intense sunlight or chemical reactions, these capsules break open and release fresh materials that restore the leaf's function. It's like having a solar panel that never needs maintenance because it continuously fixes itself. The potential applications for artificial leaf technology stretch far beyond solar panels on rooftops. Imagine windows that generate electricity while still letting light pass through. Picture cars with artificial leaf coatings that help power their electric motors. Envision clothing embedded with synthetic photosynthetic materials that could charge your phone while you walk in the sun. Some researchers are working on artificial leaves that could help address climate change more directly. These devices would absorb carbon dioxide from the air and use sunlight to convert it into useful chemicals or fuels. They would essentially reverse the process of burning fossil fuels, taking carbon out of the atmosphere and storing it in solid form. Dr. Rivera's team has created artificial leaves that can take carbon dioxide and water from the air and use sunlight to produce methanol, a simple alcohol that can be used as fuel. Their process mimics not just the light-capturing aspects of photosynthesis, but also the carbon-fixing reactions that turn carbon dioxide into organic molecules. The vision extends even further. Scientists imagine artificial forests, large installations of synthetic leaves that could generate clean energy while removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. These facilities could be built in deserts or other areas where natural forests can't grow, turning wastelands into productive energy sources. But the researchers working on artificial leaves understand that they're not trying to replace natural photosynthesis. Instead, they see their work as a collaboration with nature. Real plants will always be essential for producing oxygen, supporting ecosystems, and maintaining the delicate balance of life on Earth. The goal is to create technologies that work alongside natural systems, supplementing what plants do rather than replacing them. Imagine buildings covered with both real ivy and artificial leaves, creating a partnership between living plants and synthetic systems that together generate clean energy and purify the air. Some of the most promising research involves hybrid systems that combine living and artificial components. These biohybrid devices use real biological molecules, like chlorophyll extracted from plants, embedded in synthetic structures designed by engineers. They bridge the gap between natural and artificial systems, taking the best features of both. The timeline for these technologies varies. Simple artificial leaves that can split water using sunlight are already being tested in laboratories. More complex systems that can efficiently convert carbon dioxide into useful products are still years away from practical use. The self-repairing, biohybrid systems that could transform entire cities exist mostly in the imaginations of researchers and the computer models they use to test their ideas. But the progress is steady and inspiring. Each breakthrough brings us closer to a world where human technology works in harmony with natural processes, where our cities could become as efficient at capturing and using solar energy as the forests that once covered the same land. The scientists working on these projects often spend time in nature, studying real leaves to inspire their artificial creations. They understand that the best technology is not about conquering nature, but about learning from it and working with it. As you drift toward sleep tonight, imagine that future world where the buildings around you breathe and photosynthesize, where technology and nature have learned to dance together in perfect harmony. But even in that advanced future, the real forests will still hold the deepest secrets, still offer gifts that no artificial system could ever fully replicate. As you rest here in the gentle evening light, surrounded by the quiet presence of trees and grass, you're experiencing the result of the most generous gift in Earth's history. Every breath you take connects you to billions of years of photosynthesis, to countless leaves that lived and died long before you were born. The oxygen filling your lungs right now was created by plants. Not just the plants you can see around you today, but plants that lived millions of years ago. Plants that covered ancient continents with vast forests. Plants that floated in prehistoric oceans. Plants so small they could only be seen under a microscope, and plants so large they towered hundreds of feet into primeval skies. Each of these plants, no matter how small or how long ago they lived, contributed to the atmosphere you breathe today. They took in carbon dioxide and released oxygen, one molecule at a time, gradually transforming Earth's atmosphere from something that could never have supported human life into the oxygen-rich air that now sustains you. This transformation took an almost unimaginable amount of time. For the first 2 billion years of Earth's history, there was almost no oxygen in the atmosphere. The air was thick with carbon dioxide, methane, and other gases that would be poisonous to you. It was a world where photosynthesis had not yet been invented, where life existed only in forms that could survive without breathing oxygen. Then, somewhere in the ancient oceans, tiny organisms discovered how to capture sunlight and use it to split water molecules. These first photosynthetic bacteria began releasing oxygen as a waste product of their metabolism. At first, this oxygen was quickly absorbed by iron in the oceans, creating the red iron ore deposits that we mine today. But gradually, as more and more bacteria learned to photosynthesize, oxygen began to accumulate in the atmosphere. This was actually a crisis for most life on Earth at the time. Oxygen was toxic to the organisms that had evolved in the oxygen-free world. Many species went extinct in what scientists call the Great Oxidation Event. Yet this crisis became the foundation for all complex life that followed. The oxygen in the atmosphere allowed new forms of life to evolve, life forms that could use oxygen to burn food and release energy more efficiently than ever before. Eventually, this led to plants and animals, including humans, who depend completely on oxygen to survive. Every oxygen molecule you breathe has been through this cycle countless times. It was once part of carbon dioxide that was absorbed by a plant. The plant used sunlight to split apart the carbon dioxide, keeping the carbon to build its own body and releasing the oxygen for you to breathe. When you exhale, you release carbon dioxide back into the air, where it can be absorbed by plants and the cycle begins again. But each cycle adds something new. The carbon that plants keep becomes part of their wood, their leaves, their roots. Some of this carbon gets buried and becomes part of the soil. Some gets locked away in more permanent forms. Over millions of years, this process of photosynthesis has created most of the energy sources that human civilization depends on. The wood that heats homes and builds furniture is stored sunlight from recent years. The coal that powered the Industrial Revolution is stored sunlight from forests that lived hundreds of millions of years ago. Oil and natural gas formed from tiny marine plants and bacteria that lived in ancient seas. When these organisms died, they sank to the bottom of the ocean and were gradually buried under layers of sediment. The pressure and heat slowly transformed their bodies into the fossil fuels that power much of our modern world. Every time you turn on a light powered by coal, you're using energy that was originally captured by photosynthesis millions of years ago. Every time you drive a car that runs on gasoline, you're releasing sunlight that was stored by ancient marine organisms in prehistoric oceans. The energy that powers our computers, heats our homes, and runs our factories is almost entirely derived from photosynthesis, either recent or ancient. But the gift of photosynthesis extends far beyond energy. The plants around you are constantly purifying the air you breathe. They absorb carbon dioxide, which in large quantities can be harmful to human health, and they filter out pollutants and dust particles from the atmosphere. A single large tree can absorb 48 pounds of carbon dioxide in a year and release enough oxygen to support 2 people for a full year. The forest you might walk through on a weekend afternoon is like a massive air purification system, working silently and continuously to keep the atmosphere clean and breathable. Plants also help regulate Earth's temperature through photosynthesis. By absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, they help prevent too much heat from being trapped near Earth's surface. When forests are cut down and can no longer absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis, more heat gets trapped, contributing to climate change. The cooling effect of forests goes beyond their absorption of carbon dioxide. The process of transpiration, where plants release water vapor through their leaves, helps cool the air around them. Large forests create their own weather patterns, bringing rain and maintaining comfortable temperatures across entire regions. The Amazon rainforest, sometimes called the lungs of the earth, demonstrates photosynthesis at its most magnificent scale. This vast forest contains hundreds of billions of trees, each one performing photosynthesis and contributing to the global oxygen supply. The Amazon produces about 20% of the world's oxygen and absorbs massive amounts of carbon dioxide every year. But every forest, no matter how small, contributes to this global process. The trees in your local park, the houseplants on your windowsill, even the weeds growing in sidewalk cracks, all of them are participating in the ancient cycle of photosynthesis that maintains the conditions necessary for life on Earth. The generosity of plants extends to the future as well as the present. Every tree growing today is storing carbon that might otherwise contribute to climate change. Every new leaf that unfurls is a tiny solar panel that will capture sunlight and convert it into the oxygen and organic matter that future generations will depend on. Scientists estimate that plants have been performing photosynthesis for over 3 billion years. In all that time, the basic process has remained essentially the same. Chlorophyll captures sunlight, water is split to provide electrons, carbon dioxide is absorbed from the air, and sugar and oxygen are produced. It's a process so fundamental and reliable that all life on Earth has come to depend on it. Yet each plant performs this ancient process in its own unique way. Desert plants have evolved to photosynthesize while conserving precious water. Arctic plants have learned to capture and use the brief, intense sunlight of polar summers. Deep-sea plants have adapted to perform photosynthesis in the dim light that filters down through ocean water. This diversity of photosynthetic life ensures that the process continues under almost any conditions Earth might experience. As long as there is sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, somewhere on Earth there will be plants performing photosynthesis and maintaining the atmosphere that supports all life. The wood in the trees around you represents years or decades of captured sunlight. The oldest trees on Earth, some of which have been growing for thousands of years, contain sunlight that was captured when human civilization was just beginning. These ancient trees are living libraries of solar energy, growing slowly and steadily while storing carbon and producing oxygen year after year. When you look at a forest, you're seeing one of the most successful and enduring technologies ever developed. For billions of years, photosynthesis has powered the biosphere, created the atmosphere, and maintained the delicate balance that makes Earth habitable. It has adapted to ice ages and warm periods, mass extinctions, and evolutionary explosions, always continuing its quiet work of converting sunlight into life. And as you prepare for sleep, breathing the oxygen that countless plants have gifted to the world, you become part of this ancient story yourself, connected to every leaf that ever caught sunlight and every breath ever taken by any living thing on this remarkable, green planet. As you settle into the peaceful rhythm of your breathing, let yourself feel the profound connection between your body and the green world around you. You are not separate from the story of photosynthesis, you are woven into its very fabric, an essential part of the most beautiful partnership in the natural world. The carbon atoms that make up your muscles and bones were once floating freely in the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. They drifted on ancient winds, tumbled through prehistoric skies, and eventually found their way to a leaf somewhere, sometime, perhaps millions of years ago. That leaf welcomed the carbon dioxide through its tiny stomatal pores. Inside the leaf's green chambers, powered by captured sunlight, the carbon atoms were gently separated from their oxygen companions and incorporated into sugar molecules. These sugars became part of the plant's living tissue, perhaps a tree trunk, a flower petal, or a seed. Eventually, that plant became food for another organism, or decomposed and returned its carbon to the soil. The carbon atoms began a new journey, moving through food webs, dissolving in water, rising again into the atmosphere, and being captured once more by other plants in their endless cycle of photosynthesis. Some of these carbon atoms may have been part of dinosaurs that ate ancient ferns. Some may have floated in primordial oceans before being absorbed by algae. Some may have spent millions of years locked in limestone or coal before being released back into the air. Now these same carbon atoms are part of you. They form the protein in your muscles, the calcium in your bones, the complex molecules that make up your brain. You are literally built from the breath of ancient forests, assembled from atoms that have traveled through countless cycles of life and death, growth and decay. The oxygen you breathe tells an equally remarkable story. Each molecule of oxygen in your lungs was created when a chlorophyll molecule split a water molecule using energy from the sun. This might have happened in the leaf above your head just today, or it might have occurred in an ancient ocean billions of years ago. Some of the oxygen molecules you breathe may have been exhaled by the first forests that ever grew on land. Some may have bubbled up from prehistoric seas filled with photosynthetic bacteria. Some may have been released by plants that lived when your great-grandparents were children. All of this oxygen has been cycling through the atmosphere, being breathed by countless organisms before reaching you. It has been part of the air that filled the lungs of every human who ever lived, every animal that ever ran through a forest, every bird that ever sang at dawn. When you breathe in, you take this ancient oxygen into your body where it travels through your bloodstream to every cell. In those cells, the oxygen combines with sugar molecules, sugar that was also created by photosynthesis, to release the energy that powers your thoughts, your movements, your very life. When you breathe out, you release carbon dioxide back into the air, completing your part of the cycle. The carbon dioxide you exhale will drift away on the breeze, perhaps to be captured by a nearby tree, perhaps to travel far across the world before finding its way into another leaf's photosynthetic machinery. In this way, you are in constant conversation with the plant world. They breathe out oxygen for you to breathe in. You breathe out carbon dioxide for them to absorb. It's a partnership so intimate and essential that neither you nor the plants could survive without it. This exchange happens not just with your breathing, but with every aspect of your existence. The food you eat was either produced directly by photosynthesis or came from animals that ate photosynthetic plants. The cotton in your clothes grew by capturing sunlight and carbon dioxide. The wood in your home was built from captured sunlight, molecule by molecule, ring by ring. Even the energy that powers much of your daily life comes from photosynthesis. When you flip a light switch, you might be using electricity generated by burning coal, ancient forests compressed and transformed over millions of years. When you drive a car, you might be burning gasoline made from prehistoric marine organisms that photosynthesized in ancient seas. You are part of a web of relationships that connects you to every green thing that ever lived. The atoms in your body have been part of countless other organisms throughout Earth's history. You share the same basic building blocks with the trees outside your window, the grass beneath your feet, and the algae floating in distant oceans. But your connection to photosynthesis goes beyond the physical. You are also part of the story intellectually and emotionally. When you feel peace in a forest, you are responding to the environment that photosynthesis created. When you feel joy at seeing flowers bloom in spring, you are celebrating the success of photosynthetic organisms awakening from winter dormancy. Your curiosity about how photosynthesis works makes you part of the human quest to understand and learn from nature. When you wonder about the quantum processes in chlorophyll or the efficiency of natural solar panels, you join the community of scientists and thinkers who have dedicated their lives to comprehending these natural mysteries. Your choices about how to live also make you part of the photosynthetic story. When you choose to walk instead of drive, you reduce the demand for fossil fuels and honor the ancient photosynthesis that created them. When you plant a garden or care for houseplants, you become a partner in creating new opportunities for photosynthesis to occur. When you make decisions that protect forests and natural areas, you help preserve the places where photosynthesis can continue its ancient work of maintaining Earth's atmosphere and climate. You become a guardian of the processes that make life on Earth possible. Even your dreams connect you to the world of photosynthesis. When you sleep under the stars, you rest beneath the same sun that powers all the photosynthesis on Earth. The oxygen flowing through your bloodstream as you dream was created by plants converting sunlight into life. In your dreams, you might imagine yourself as small as a molecule, dancing through the quantum world inside a chlorophyll molecule. You might dream of floating through the air as carbon dioxide, waiting to be welcomed into a leaf's photosynthetic embrace. You might envision yourself as part of the ancient forests that first filled the atmosphere with oxygen. These dreams are not fantasies, they reflect the deep truth that you are intimately connected to every aspect of the photosynthetic world. Your imagination, your breath, your very existence are all expressions of the same creative force that enables plants to capture sunlight and transform it into life. As you drift toward sleep, let yourself feel this connection deeply. You are not just an observer of photosynthesis, you are a participant in it. Your breathing, your metabolism, your growth, and your awareness are all part of the same cosmic dance that began billions of years ago when the first organisms learned to eat sunlight. Tomorrow, when you wake up and see sunlight streaming through leaves, you will understand that you are witnessing your own story. The light being captured by those leaves, the oxygen they release, the carbon they absorb, all of it is part of the larger story of which you are an essential chapter. You belong to this green world as surely as the trees belong to the forest. You are made of starlight and water and ancient air, assembled by the same processes that build every leaf and flower. You are part of the solar story, a conscious expression of the universe's ability to transform light into life, matter into meaning, sunshine into dreams. Rest now in this knowledge, breathing slowly and deeply, knowing that each breath connects you to the infinite generosity of the photosynthetic world, and that you will always be part of this beautiful, eternal dance of light and life.